The air was thick with smoke and dust, swirling violently around the jagged rocks of the alien battlefield. Ash and sparks rained down from the shattered sky, turning the once blue horizon into a dull orange haze. Among the chaos, a small group of humans huddled behind a broken wall of metallic debris, their hearts racing, their breaths heavy. From a distance, monstrous shadows moved, creeping over the ground with a terrifying grace. They were enormous, tall as trees, their limbs twisted and sharp, with glowing eyes that pierced the darkness. The humans had faced creatures before, but nothing like these. These beings were not just dangerous, they were smart. Every move they made seemed calculated, as if they were hunting with an intelligence that rivaled the human's own. Lieutenant Mara Dane pressed herself against the wall, gripping her blaster tightly. Her fingers shook, not from fear, she told herself, but from the exhaustion that had drained her over the last few hours. Around her, other humans whispered frantically, checking their ammo, scanning the horizon for any sign of help. "They're everywhere," whispered Corporal Reyes, his voice tight with panic. "If we stay here, they'll—" He didn't finish the sentence. The monsters were moving closer. Mara peered through the smoke. One of the creatures had spotted them. Its glowing red eyes locked onto her, and it let out a sound, a mixture of a roar and a screech, that sent chills down her spine. Its massive claw tore into the wall near her, splintering the metal and sending a sharp spray of sparks into the air. "Move!" Mara shouted. "Fall back to the ridge." The humans scrambled, dodging falling debris and jagged metal. Their boots scraped against the alien ground, kicking up clouds of dust that made it hard to see. Behind them, the monsters followed with terrifying speed, their long legs covering ground in seconds. Mara could feel the ground shake under their weight. Amid the chaos, a voice crackled through the communicator in Mara's ear. "Lieutenant Dane, this is command. Status report." Mara's fingers hovered over the communicator. The signal was weak, breaking in and out. "Command, we were surrounded. The creatures, they're not like anything we've ever fought. We need extraction now." Static filled the line, then the voice came back, distant and harsh. "Extraction impossible. Hold your position. Reinforcements." The signal cut off. Mara's stomach sank. They were on their own. She glanced at the other humans. Fear had taken hold, but so had determination. Each of them carried the same spark, a will to survive, a refusal to give in. Mara had seen it before. Humans might not be the strongest species, not the fastest, not the largest. But they had something else, courage. And sometimes courage was stronger than claws or teeth. A sudden roar echoed across the battlefield, louder than the last. Mara froze, scanning the sky. There above the ridge, a massive shadow fell. A creature, larger than any she had seen, landed in a cloud of dust. Its body was armored with jagged plates, and its mouth opened wide, revealing rows of sharp, glinting teeth. The humans instinctively formed a line, raising their weapons. The creatures paused, circling them, sniffing the air, testing their prey. Mara could see the intelligence in their movements. These were hunters, not mindless beasts. "Steady," she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. "We fight smart or we die." Suddenly, one of the smaller creatures darted forward, faster than anyone expected. It leapt over a pile of debris and landed directly in front of Sergeant Harlan. He fired his blaster, but the creature was too quick. It dodged with inhuman agility and slashed at him with claws sharp as knives. Harlan screamed as the claw caught his shoulder, tearing through his armor. Mara's heart pounded. She could not, would not, let them fall. She fired her weapon, aiming for the creature's glowing eyes. Sparks erupted from its face as her blaster hit its mark. The creature screeched and stumbled back, but it was not dead. "Keep moving," Mara yelled. "To the ridge now." The humans sprinted, adrenaline pumping through their veins. The ridge was a small height, barely enough to give them a defensive advantage. But every second counted. The creatures were fast, relentless, and determined. As they reached the top, Mara spotted something she had not expected. In the distance, a faint light flickered, green and steady. Another human squad? Or something else? Hope flared briefly, but the creatures noticed too. They hissed and charged in unison. Mara turned to the group. "Form a line. Don't let them get past us." The humans obeyed, weapons raised, hearts racing. The first wave of creatures hit. Blaster fire lit the battlefield with bursts of blue and white, lighting up the jagged metal and dust clouds. The creatures shrieked, clawed, and slammed into the humans with frightening force. Mara's world narrowed to the fight in front of her. One human fell beside her, another screamed. She swung her weapon, ducked, rolled, fired. Every movement was instinct, every decision life or death. Then, in the chaos, something strange happened. The humans began moving in perfect coordination. Where one fell, another covered. Where one fired, another flanked. It was as if an invisible force connected them, guiding their actions, anticipating the creature's next moves. Mara felt a surge of something she had not felt before. Awe. The creatures were terrifying, yes, but humans could adapt. Humans could survive. The battle raged for minutes that felt like hours. The creatures struck hard, but the humans struck smarter. Mara's side saw a creature fall, then another, then another. Each victory was small, but it built hope, a fragile, burning hope. Then came the desperate call. Not from a communicator, but from the battlefield itself. A human child, separated from her parents, was trapped under a fallen metal beam. The creatures were closing in, their claws scraping against the ground, their red eyes fixed on her. Mara didn't think. She ran, dodging debris, leaping over rocks, aiming her blaster at the nearest creature. Her hands shook, but her steps were steady. She reached the child, lifted the heavy beam, and pulled her to safety just as a claw struck the ground inches from her foot. The child looked up at Mara with wide, terrified eyes. They're coming back. Mara nodded, catching her breath. Yes, she said softly. But we won't let them win. And in that moment, Mara realized the truth. Humans were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for each other. For hope. For a future. And even in a world filled with terrible creatures, that was something no alien could take away. The creatures paused, sensing the humans' resolve. For a brief moment, the battlefield was still, just enough for Mara to see the rising sun over the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of gold. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Mara looked around at her comrades. Wounded, exhausted, scared, but alive. She smiled, though tiredly. We made it through the first wave, she said. But this is only the beginning. We have a long way to go. Above, the monsters roared once more, their shadows stretching across the battlefield. And Mara knew deep down that the humans' real power was only beginning to reveal itself. The dust had barely settled from the first battle, but the humans could not rest. The ridge offered only a small reprieve, a momentary lull before the next wave. Mara Dane stood at the edge, scanning the horizon. The creatures were regrouping, their glowing eyes searching, calculating. They're smart, whispered Sergeant Harlan beside her. They learn fast. Mara nodded. She had noticed it too. Every time they struck, every time they survived, the creatures adapted. But humans adapted too. Listen, Mara said, her voice steady. We've survived worse than this. We just need to think differently. The group huddled behind the ridge, forming a circle of strategy. The terrain was rough, with jagged cliffs and deep crevices. It was dangerous, yes, but it was also an opportunity. Humans had something the creatures could never predict: creativity. Corporal Reyes, wiping blood from his brow, looked up. What do you mean differently? Mara pointed to the cliffs. We use the terrain. Force them into traps. They can't climb every cliff at once. And we move as one. The humans nodded, a spark of hope in their eyes. They had fought together before, but never like this. Not against something so intelligent. It was time to show the aliens what humans could really do. They moved quickly, quietly. Mara led the group along narrow paths that twisted and turned, forcing the creatures to split. The monsters hissed in frustration, their sharp claws scraping against the stone. Suddenly, one creature appeared, darting across the path ahead. Mara fired, but the shot barely grazed it. The creature froze, then lunged at a small trap they had set, a net woven from reinforced wires. It yelped, entangled, thrashing violently. Nice work, Mara said, her lips curling into a faint smile. We're just getting started. The humans pressed forward, each using their own skills. Some fired blasters, others set traps, while a few used explosives scavenged from fallen alien machinery. It was chaotic, but it was organized chaos, a dance of precision and instinct. And then it happened. Something the aliens did not expect. One of the creatures, massive and armored, charged down a slope toward the humans. Its roar shook the ground, sending smaller rocks tumbling into the crevice below. Mara acted instantly. She waved her hand, signaling Reyes and Harlan. They split to the sides, firing at the creature's joints. Sparks flew as blaster beams hit its thick armor. The creature stumbled but kept coming. Then, Mara activated a small device she had saved from the last battle. It emitted a pulse, a high-frequency vibration that only the aliens could hear. The creature froze, shaking violently, its glowing eyes flickering. It roared, turned, and ran back toward the others. The humans had discovered something the creatures could not anticipate. Humans fight not just with weapons, but with cunning and improvisation. Minutes passed, and more creatures approached. The humans fought relentlessly, but they were careful, precise, and calculated. Every move had a purpose. Every trap, every shot, every maneuver was designed to maximize survival. Amid the chaos, Mara noticed a shadow moving differently. Not a creature, something smaller, more intelligent. She squinted and saw a small alien, almost like a scout, observing them from the edge of the cliff. It tilted its head, as if studying them, learning from their movements. "They're learning," Mara muttered. "They're trying to understand us." Suddenly, a loud screech echoed across the ridge. More creatures were coming, this time faster, angrier. The humans braced themselves. Mara realized they needed a bold move. Something the creatures would never expect. "Listen to me," she shouted. "We're not just defending. We're attacking together. No one goes alone. We move as one, like a single mind. Can you do that?" The humans nodded, their eyes fierce with determination. They charged. Not recklessly, but with precision. Each human had a role. Some distracted, others set traps, some attacked directly. The aliens fell into confusion. Their coordination faltered as the humans moved unpredictably, striking where they were least expected. Reyes, spotting a group of creatures trying to flank them, ran to a cliff edge and triggered a series of explosives. Rocks tumbled down, striking the creatures. One screeched and fell, another scrambled to escape. Mara focused on the largest creature, the one armored and terrifying. She waited until it was close, then lunged with a small device in her hand. She pressed it, and a blinding flash of light erupted, temporarily stunning the monster. It roared in rage and pain, backing away. The humans advanced, using every advantage. The smaller creatures, once terrifying in their speed, now hesitated. The humans' coordination, strategy, and ingenuity had shifted the battle. Then came the moment that would mark the humans forever. A massive creature, one they had feared from the beginning, descended from the cliffs behind them. It moved with terrifying speed, its claws digging into the stone. For a moment, all seemed lost. But humans do not give up. Mara shouted instructions, and the team responded instantly. One human fired a tether to hook the creature's leg. Another set a trap that released a surge of energy, temporarily stunning it. The creature roared and swung, missing the humans by inches. And then, with an impossible combination of courage and cleverness, Mara leapt onto the creature, planting an explosive on its back. She jumped off just in time as it detonated, sending the massive alien crashing into the rocks below. For a moment, silence. The humans were alive. The creatures retreated, at least for now, as if shocked by the humans' unexpected power. Mara looked around. Her team was battered, bleeding, exhausted, but alive. They had survived what no one thought possible. "Do you see it now?" she asked, her voice steady. "We're not weak. We're not just prey. We adapt. We survive. And we fight smarter than anything they've ever faced." Corporal Reyes wiped sweat and blood from his face, smiling faintly. I never realized we're stronger than we look." Mara nodded, her heart still racing. "And this is just the beginning. They don't know our full power yet. They've seen courage, determination, but not our mind. Not our unity. Not our will." The humans regrouped. They tended to the wounded, reinforced their position, and prepared for the next wave. But something had changed. Mara could feel it. The creatures no longer saw them as simple prey. They saw humans as a force, a dangerous, unpredictable force. And humans had begun to understand something themselves. They were more than just survivors. They were thinkers, fighters, and strategists. They were humans. Above, the alien sky darkened again, as if signaling the next challenge. Mara clenched her fists, a fierce determination in her eyes. "Let them come," she said softly. "We're ready. They've only seen the beginning." And somewhere in the shadows, the scout creature watched, learning, realizing that these humans were not like the others it had encountered. They were clever, fearless, and united, a species that would not be underestimated again. The battle was far from over. But the humans had revealed their secret. They fight not just with strength, but with mind, courage, and unity. And that secret was deadly. The alien sky was heavy with dark clouds, jagged streaks of lightning flashing across the horizon. The battlefield lay scarred from the humans' last fight, craters, scorched earth, and shattered rocks marking the monster's retreat. But Mara Dane and her team knew better than to trust the silence. The creatures were not gone. They were observing, calculating, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Mara crouched behind a ridge, her eyes scanning the horizon. "They're testing us," she murmured. "They want to see how far we'll go." Corporal Reyes adjusted his blaster. "Testing us or hunting us?" Mara's jaw tightened. Both. They had survived countless attacks, but the creatures had begun to recognize one undeniable truth. Humans are unpredictable. And unpredictability was dangerous to any predator. The team moved silently across the jagged terrain, using shadows and debris as cover. Every step was calculated. Every glance measured the distance to the nearest threat. Yet Mara could sense something shifting. The humans themselves were beginning to feel a change. A new confidence. A recognition of power that went beyond brute strength or luck. As they reached a narrow canyon, the first wave of creatures descended. Massive, armored beasts, faster and smarter than before, charged with ferocious precision. But the humans were ready. Mara signaled with a flick of her hand, and the team moved as one. Reyes and Harlan triggered hidden explosives in the canyon walls, sending rocks crashing onto the advancing monsters. Sparks flew as blaster fire met claws and teeth. But this time, the humans didn't just react, they dictated the battle. Mara sprinted ahead, vaulting over debris. She planted devices along the canyon floor, small but powerful energy traps that pulsed with blue light. When the creatures stepped near them, they were thrown back, stunned and disoriented. "Focus fire on the leader," Mara shouted. A massive creature, its armor plated like a tank, towered above the others. Its glowing eyes scanned the humans with intelligence and malice. But humans were not afraid. They had learned something essential. Courage amplifies skill. Blaster beams struck the leader, each shot carefully aimed at its weak points. The creature roared, swinging its massive claws, yet the humans moved with an uncanny precision, dodging and striking in harmony. Every action was part of a larger plan, one the aliens could not anticipate. Then Mara saw it, a smaller alien, the scout from the previous battle, weaving through the chaos, attempting to flank them. Its movements were swift, almost elegant, but Mara had anticipated it. She triggered a tripwire attached to a device that released a net of high-tensile wires, capturing the scout instantly. The humans did not hesitate. They surrounded the creature, examining it carefully. It hissed and struggled, but it was no match for the coordinated humans. For the first time, Mara realized something profound. Humans did not just react to threats, they controlled them. As the creatures faltered, Mara noticed something else. Her team's morale had shifted. Where fear had once lurked, determination now burned. Their weapons moved faster, their decisions sharper. Every human instinct had been sharpened by survival, by necessity. And that was the moment the battlefield changed. Mara leapt onto a rocky ledge, scanning the horizon. More creatures were coming, larger, faster, and more coordinated. But the humans no longer feared them. Instead, they readied themselves not as prey, but as hunters. "Spread out," Mara commanded. "Divide and conquer. Trap them before they trap us." The humans executed the plan flawlessly. Some drew the creatures into narrow passages, where the energy traps and explosives delayed them. Others used ropes and grappling hooks to create barriers and channels, funneling the monsters into kill zones. Mara herself led the charge, moving with calculated precision, planting devices and coordinating attacks like a conductor guiding a symphony. One particularly massive creature lunged at Harlan, its claws slicing through the air. But Mara was ready. She triggered a nearby device and a net shot out, tangling the creature's limbs. It roared in fury, thrashing violently, but the humans pressed forward. Harlan fired his blaster at the creature's exposed joints, weakening it further. The creatures tried to regroup, but humans had learned their patterns. They anticipated movements, predicted attacks, and countered with uncanny intelligence. It was no longer a battle of brute strength. It was a battle of mind, will, and unity. Amid the chaos, Mara noticed the horizon shifting. A massive alien formation approached, dozens of creatures moving with terrifying speed. Their leader, a colossal beast with reinforced armor and multiple glowing eyes, marched at the forefront. The humans' defensive position seemed inadequate. But Mara smiled. They think we're cornered, she said softly. They're wrong. She raised her hand, signaling her team. We strike together, now. The humans surged forward. Blaster fire erupted in synchronized bursts. Explosives detonated with precision. The ground shook as the massive leader collided with the traps and energy pulses, stumbling from side to side. Smaller creatures were funneled into kill zones, trapped or incapacitated. Then came the impossible moment. Mara sprinted toward the massive leader, dodging swinging claws and snapping teeth. She planted a high-powered energy charge on its chest plate and jumped aside just as it detonated. The explosion threw the creature back, leaving it disoriented and vulnerable. The humans did not hesitate. They attacked with everything they had. Blasters, traps, and devices struck the beast relentlessly. Sparks flew from its armor, and it roared in pain and frustration. And then finally it fell. Silence fell over the battlefield. The humans stood, breathing heavily, scanning for any remaining threats. The creatures had retreated beaten, not by numbers, but by strategy, intelligence, and unity. Mara looked at her team. They were battered, bloody, exhausted, but alive. And more importantly, they had learned something vital. Humans are more than they appear. They're not just animals, Mara said. They're intelligent. But so are we. And together, we're unstoppable. Reyes nodded. I never imagined we could do that. Not just survive, but dominate. Mara smiled faintly. We didn't just survive. We showed them what humanity is capable of. Strength, courage, unity, intelligence. They've seen only a fraction of our power. And they'll remember it. Above them, the dark sky seemed to pulse with alien energy, as if the universe itself had taken notice. The scout creature from earlier appeared again, observing from a distance. Its eyes reflected fear, or perhaps respect. The humans had proven a truth that no alien could deny. Humans fight not just with might, but with mind, heart, and unity. Mara turned to her team. This is only the beginning. They'll come back. They always do. But now we're ready. They've seen our strength, but not our full power. And they never will. The humans began to move forward, tending to the wounded, repairing devices, and fortifying their position. Every movement was careful, every decision precise. They were no longer reacting. They were shaping the battlefield. And Mara knew deep down that the humans' real power had only begun to reveal itself. The creatures had underestimated them once. They would not make that mistake again. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the battlefield. Sparks from destroyed devices and smoldering fires lit the humans' faces. They were tired, yes, but unbroken. Fear had been replaced with determination, doubt with confidence. They had discovered a truth that would carry them forward. Humans endure, adapt, and overcome. Always. As night fell, Mara gazed into the darkness, sensing movement in the shadows. She smiled grimly. The creatures were coming again. And next time, they would not just face humans. They would face humanity unleashed.